we had another chapter in what some people are calling the BRUVLINE, which I kind of find hilarious.
That's funny. It is.
And then they got Will Ospreay in there with Wheeler Yuta on top of his neck, and he's doing neck bridges. And Daniel Garcia is talking a bunch of shit in the camera. They have basically they talked about, you came back from New Japan, we don't care, we getting right to work, and it basically the exercise ended, and then Moxley sat down next to him and started trying to drop knowledge on him essentially, and he was like, he asked him if he ever heard of the concept of death ground, which is standing on the ground which you can't leave, is do or die. That's where you're at if you don't get your head and neck right. He said you could still have a career at AEW and hang out like the rest of these posers, but that's not what you want. This is the hardest 1%. It's going to be hard. Nothing else exists but what's in front of you. And then Moxley got up after that, and it was, I forgot what Moxley did, but it was something like he was dead serious for a second, then he wasn't serious anymore.
I don't remember the end of it, but I remember hearing the death ground thing, and I was like, that's interesting. I never heard of it, but like apparently it's some what do you call it? Art of War shit. But okay, cool. I liked it, and I know people are going to make fun of the whole. Was it Wheeler Yuta or was it Garcia that was on Ospreay's back?
Yuta.
I know people are going to do the AO pause, all that kind of funny stuff with those, but like people, that's how people train their necks in the dojo. Like they either doing that shit with people with body weight, other people on them, or they're like literally like doing it on their own. Against the like lean up on their head, and they're doing it or whatever else. Like they're doing a lot of stuff to protect their neck or whatever else. So like the story is all this training is actually strengthening the muscles around his neck, and he's rehabbing his neck. Death Rider's rehabbing his neck. Given what they did with Doc Samson later in the show. For me, I was okay with this. It's another part of what they're telling with Moxley and with Ospreay. But once they do the Samoa Joe part, I was like, okay, should we go to that?
Sure. Before you do that, I didn't mind the content of this or anything. I think I just disagree with the direction, because I don't think
that's fair.
It enhances Will. Like, it feels like at the end of the day, Moxley is still the quote unquote cool one.
I think that's fair. I also think they're also like telling all sorts of martial arts movies.
Mm-hmm.
So like eventually, at some point, Will Ospreay / Luke Armstrong, Luke Skywalker / Neo / Daniel-san will eventually get their cool.
So is it actually like, instead of Rocky 3, is it Karate Kid 3? Like, can we make it to where Moxley is like Terry Silver and he's training them like incorrectly? I think I could get more into that and be like, what are you asking me to do this for? And then he's actually trying to hurt him and abuse him more. You could get me into it with that approach, but I don't think they're doing that. You're supposed to think John Moxley is altruistic. Meanwhile,
why would I ever think that after what I've seen the last 2 years with John Moxley?
Because we never know what to think with John Moxley at this point. The only thing about John Moxley that's for sure is nothing's for sure.
So I think that what they're trying to say, I think what we're trying to get at is he sees potential in Moxley. He wants Moxley at his best, and when Moxley becomes a champion, he wants his title shot, because like the whole thing was he's been to the mountaintop millions of times before. He got toppled off the mountain, and before he can get back to the mountain, Hangman fucking lost, and then he fucking gave away his chance to be champion again until he turns heel, and then obviously reneges on all that. You get my point. But like the next person he seems to be the great adversary for him, because he's past Ospreay, he's past Hangman now. Now it's time for Ospreay. I think he's trying to build up his next. Like rival. I think that's might be the play at this. It's still in the early stage. Like I said, as we agree, like there's interesting things with all this stuff, but it's like, how long is this going to take to get to where people have a concrete idea of where this is going?
Yeah, I think I would be sold on the Terry Silver like angle. Be like, hey man, why are you training me like this or something like that? Like, and then he ultimately has to tap into something of his own. But
right. Yeah, I mean that's all there with the whole thing of like, hey man, because you know, can I get to the Samoa Joe thing now?
Yeah.
All right, so later in the show, Samoa Joe's like, hey man, you know when Moxley fucked up your neck before you went on the shelf, like we were helping you, and now I'm back and we want to answer. We want you to join the ops, and we could do similar things that they're doing for you that we could do, that they're doing for you that we could do as well. And then like
Why do I not remember this?
I don't know. It was like a 2-minute thing anyway. So
Yeah.
and then there's also
I'm saying like the part of where the ops were helping Will Ospreay. I don't remember that at all.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then there's also where was I? Then there's also what happened at New Japan where, you know, Kyle Newman's like, hey man, are you leaving United Empire? And then Will's like, and this actually is the best thing they've done because it's actually pro wrestling where it's like, we're post match, it's actually faction turmoil, and they're looking at each other in the eye, and it feels like an actual press conference as opposed to this cinematic stuff. And there's nothing wrong with it, but my point is like, if New Japan does this stuff better, and it's also off to the side or whatever else, it's not actually like in the runtime of the match. Of the show or whatever else, this post-match shit that you watch, supplementary, right? But I'm watching that stuff, it's like, okay, so Will Ospreay, like, people are trying to figure out what house he plays to. I'm like, hey man, Rich, I know Catherine's a big Harry Potter fan. I'm not really. I liked a couple of the movies, but like, I don't need the British special guy to have to choose a house to figure out what his skills and his virtue is. Like, enough.
Okay, Forbidden Door 2025 cage match follow. The ops rush the stage and try to rescue Will as Will's getting beat up by the Death Riders. Okay.
Yeah. And that follows in line with Death Riders in ops throughout the whole summer.